What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast. I'm Zachary, Neel, flying solo for this game as a recap for Oregon's Week 1 victory over Montana State. 59-13, your final score. Oregon looked really, really good, man. I know it's Montana State. It's an FCS team. Take everything with a grain of salt. We have said FCS or Montana State is a decent team. You know, they're number 2 in the FCS going into this year, so they're not just a nobody. But it's not like you're playing a Big Ten opponent. Not like you're really being tested against the talent who you think Oregon's going to play later in the year. But regardless of all of that, Oregon played really well. They showed everything you wanted them to show. I was really impressed by what they did on Saturday. Again, 59-13 was your final. I'm just going to go through some of my major takeaways from the game as a recap for this. And then later in the week, Jay Stu and I will be on. I think we're recording Monday morning. We'll get into our take and bake. We'll get into some of our bigger, breakdowns of the game, and then look forward to next week against Oklahoma State as well. So to start us off, this game, I think the biggest takeaway I had from this game was the youth of Oregon's team. We knew that coming into this year, that this was a young team, an unproven team. It bore out in a great way. I think that's probably the most encouraging thing we saw after this game is how many young guys played and how many young guys played well. I mean, you look out, obviously, Dante Moore was going to trot out there with the starters on offense. Like, we knew he was going to be one of the guys. You get to the defensive side of the ball, and you've got Brandon Finney, a true freshman, starting at cornerback. And then you got Ifeoma Badegwu, a redshirt freshman who's never played a snap of college football before, starting at the other cornerback spot. You got Aaron Flowers, a redshirt freshman at safety. Then throughout the game, you get guys like Dier Hill, Jordan Davison, who I'll talk about more, DeJuan Riggs, Jeremiah McClellan with 2 blocked punts, Cooper Perry, Kingston Lopa, Naeem Offord, Nasir Wyatt, Peyton Woodyard, like all of these guys, either true freshmen or redshirt freshmen, getting meaningful snaps in the game. It's not like they just played garbage time late in the third or fourth quarter, like when the game was already out of hand. These guys were playing first quarter, second quarter snaps, like contributing to the blowout victory. Just super, super impressed with this team. Dan has always said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. He said after the game, we've got a lot of guys on this team that are good enough. I was just really impressed with how talented this group is, and they're so young, which gives me so much encouragement because I think they're going to be here for at least 2 years. They got to be until they're juniors at least, as long as they don't transfer, which why would you transfer away from Oregon right now? I don't know, man. I'm going to talk to Jay Stu about this more on Monday, but that championship window for Oregon, I'm not saying it's this year. I'm on record. I don't think it's this year. I think it's next year. But that championship window is open. And I think it's going to be open for quite a while because the way this team is recruiting, just the talent on hand right now, I think is just absolutely incredible. Moving on, Dante Moore. We had a lot of questions. I don't know about questions about how good he can be or like what to expect from him. I feel like we felt pretty confident that he was going to be a serviceable QB at the very least, and with a ceiling that was pretty high. I think we saw everything we wanted to see from him. He finished the game, 18 for 23 for 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, did not put the ball in harm's way at all. He even rushed a few times where you have 3 rushes for 18 yards. Show that he's willing to use his legs a little bit. We love that. It's everything you wanted to see from him. He wasn't going to air it out too much, a lot, little short dink and dunk passes. That's Oregon's offense, man. I mean, Will Stein says that time and again. Like, they've got the playmakers. They don't need to take a lot of risks on offense. Just get the ball to the receivers and the running backs. Let them get into space and let them go. Dante Moore did that. I thought he did a really good job of that. And just his arm talent. Like, you don't have to throw the ball deep downfield to show off your arm talent. The zip on some of his passes, his little 5-yard out routes, some mesh over the middle. He gets it there in a hurry, man. Like, credit to these receivers and running backs for holding on to the passes because those are coming out hot. I don't know. I was just really impressed by what he did throughout the game. And it was very, they didn't ask him to do a lot. And he did fine with that. I mean, he One of the best things I think Lanning said after the game is he said that his favorite play from Dante was a play that he didn't make. It was third down, I think third and goal. I believe it was in the first or second quarter. They were up 14-0. Dante was rolling to his right, and there was a few guys he could have thrown to. He could have tried to to fit a throw into a tight window, tried to make a play. And we know that Dante's aggressive. I wouldn't have been surprised if he tried it. We saw Dylan Gabriel try that a few times last year and ended in picks. Dan said that he loved that Dante saw it wasn't there. He didn't force anything. He ran for 5 yards, ran out of bounds. They went and kicked a field goal. 3 points on the board, extend the lead to 17-0. That's the growth that Dan has talked about that he's seen in Dante so much. It's those type of things that I think, Dan said they don't get a lot of hoopla is the word that he used. But those things matter. That's owning the ball. That's not giving the ball away. That's taking the points when they come. That's taking what the defense gives you. Great growth moment, great development. I just thought that was a really, really impressive showing from him. Overall, just a really good day for Dante. I'm excited to see what he can do when the offense opens up a little bit more. I thought it was interesting that Oregon did run a lot of different formations today. They were out in 11, 12, 13, even 14 personnel at some points, getting multiple tight ends on the field, multiple wide receivers, running backs. For any teams that Oregon plays in the future, they've got a lot of tape to kind of dissect now because Oregon can run all these different things, and I'm sure they ran 10% of the plays that they're capable of out of those formations. But overall, just the offense, I think the passing game, at least, and the quarterback play in general, was very solid. I would give it probably a B plus or an A minus, but that's totally fine. You don't need anything more than that in a game against Montana State where you're 4 touchdown favorites going into it. Moving on to the running backs, there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited to talk to Jay Stu on Monday about this because the running backs are an interesting conversation. First, let's talk about what we did see, a ton of depth. I mean, Oregon had 7 running backs get carries in this game. Yeah, Noah Whittington was your starter. I think that was semi-expected. People thought it was going to be him or Mackay. Thought it was going to be Noah. He had 10 rushes for 68 yards and a touchdown. We saw a lot of Jordan Davison, true freshman, had 3 touchdowns in the game. He was kind of your Cyrus Bibilikio goal line back. He came in and vultured a few touchdowns, but vulture that word has a negative connotation in the world, in the football sense. I don't mean that. He earned his keep. I mean, they came in and put him in that 14 personnel package, and he got his yards. He got his touchdowns. Dier Hill also looked really good. DeJuan Riggs didn't get as much playing time as I thought he would. I thought he'd be a bigger part of this offense, which we'll have that conversation in a second. Jaden Lamar also looked good. He finished with 3 rushes for 20 yards and a touchdown. I mean, overall, there was not a ton of carries to go around from the running back perspective. Noah Whittington dominated most of that with 10. The next highest was Jordan with 6 for 26 yards and 3 touchdowns. Solid showing. The blocking up front was very good with the offensive line. I know the offensive line got dinged up a little bit with Emmanuel Pregnon going out at some point, getting rolled up on. He looked to be okay. He was on the sideline after that, no crutches or anything, but didn't come back in the game, obviously, because he didn't need him to at that point. I would give the running backs a solid B, B plus. I think they played really well, but didn't do anything extraordinary, didn't break any super long runs. Noah Whittington's first run of the day went for 35 yards, so that was great. Dier Hill had a 28-yarder. Outside of that, nothing over, looks like 16 yards. 16 yards for Jaden Lamar. So very solid. But let's talk about Mackay Hughes, because going into this game, it was expected that he was going to be the starter. And I see why that was expected. He's the number 1 rated running back in the transfer portal this year. You bring him in, you think he's replacing Jordan James, you think he's going to be the starter because he's really good. He didn't get a touch until I believe it was, less than 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. I believe he was the 6th Oregon running back to even see the field. I don't have answers. I'm just going to start right there. Like, there's a lot of questions. Why is he not playing? Is he low on the depth chart? Is he injured? Is he suspended? I don't know. I don't have answers for you. I know that there's a lot of questions. I think they're valid. I also think if you listen to this podcast, you know that if we ask Dan any of these questions, we won't get a straight answer. So the only way we're going to figure out anything going forward is just by waiting and watching and kind of seeing. I'm very curious to see what happens next week against Oklahoma State. Is Mackay continuing to be RB4, RB5, RB6 on this depth chart? Or does he get out there with the ones or the twos and play a meaningful role? I don't know. The same thing goes with Dink Riggs. I thought he, if I were to create my RB depth chart going into this game, it'd be Mackay and then Noah and then Dink. And it didn't play out that way today against Montana State. It's not a bad thing necessarily because they obviously proved that they have the depth and the talent there to still be really good. But I don't know. Going into this year, I thought that two of those three guys, Dink and Mackay, were going to be, have major roles in this offense. That wasn't the case today. So will that be the case next week? Who knows? We just got to wait and see. It's so early in the year that I don't blame Dan or Will or anyone for just not really showing their cards right now. But it definitely did leave me with some questions going forward. Moving on to the receiver position, kind of similar to running backs where there's so much depth. We had questions about who was going to be the top guys. We thought DeCorian was one of those guys. Gary Bryant Jr. was probably one of those guys, but then who was going to be that wide receiver 3? My call was on Malik Benson. I feel good about that prediction right now, but other guys like Kyler Casper, Jeremiah McClellan, Justice Lowe, even go down the line to someone like Cooper Perry, Dylan Gresham, who we knew was injured going into this game. He didn't play. Obviously, he actually had a neck brace on, so I'm curious to see the extent of that injury, how long he's out for, but I think he can get some time when he does get back healthy. They spread the ball around a ton today. 7 different wide receivers had catches today. They were led by Gary Bryant with 4, DeCorian had 3, and then several others had 1 catch each. So, Malik Benson led the way with 5 catches, then Gary 4. Anyway, though, they were solid. Again, this is a Montana State game where you're not going to open up the entire playbook, and Dante was not really slinging the ball downfield because he didn't need to. So I was impressed by what I saw. One thing that I absolutely loved that I'll talk about now, DeCorian Moore's pancake block on Gary Bryant's touchdown was incredible. You always say no block, no rock. It looks like DeCorian takes that to heart because he, on a screen pass out to the right side, took his defender, and Lanning later told us after the game that he was blocking the wrong guy. But he just took him to the ground and just blocked him into the end zone and pancaked him and got up and celebrated the block more than Gary even celebrated the touchdown. So you love to see it. That obviously a team first guy, and shows just how important that aspect of the game is. I think that's really valuable coming from a true freshman who is a 5-star receiver who's probably making, dare I say, over $1 million this year with Oregon. Like, this is one of the blue chip guys on the roster. And if he's willing to do the dirty work like that, that it shows so much, says so much to the other guys on the team. I think it's just really impressive. You'd love to see that from a young wide receiver. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, there wasn't really much of a passing game to worry about. They threw the ball 31 times for 198 yards, got sacked 3 times. The defensive line did really well. What I want to talk about, though, is the rushing defense, which I think was probably the story of the game for the defense, at least. Coming into this game, we knew that Montana State could run the ball. They averaged almost 300 yards per game on the ground last year. Again, new offensive coordinator, new RB1 because their RB1 left in the transfer portal, but still really good. A team that was going to run the ball a lot, you knew, going into this game. And there was questions about Oregon's run defense after the way the last year it did. The Penn State game, the Ohio State game, the Ducks got ran over in both of those. So coming into this year without Derek Harmon, without Jamari Caldwell, there's questions about, how good this run defense is going to be. If today is any indication, and I know I said earlier, take it with a grain of salt because it's Montana State. I take this with less of a grain of salt because, Montana State has a respectable rushing attack. They are when it comes to FCS football, one of the best rushing teams in the nation, if not the best. So maybe that makes them an average FBS level rushing team. I don't really know how that translates, but they at least can run the ball well. I'm willing to give more weight to the fact that Oregon was able to stop their rushing attack than Oregon's ability to stop their passing attack. That just means more to me. In the end, Montana State ran the ball 27 times for 46 total yards. That's an average of 1.7 yards per carry. Really good. That's really good. We talked to Dan and Amari Washington after the game. They said they went into this game with one focus, and that was to stop the run. That's all they cared about on defense. And yeah, mission accomplished. I think they did a really good job of that. Amari Washington, was an absolute beast. He was in the backfield all day long, just stopping runs. That guy is going to be so good. If you don't know the name Amari Washington now, and if you don't watch him, number 52 during Oregon games, I'm going to tell you to start, because that guy, I really think he could be a first-round draft pick this next year. I mean, he is following in the footsteps of Derek Harmon. He is a really, really good defensive tackle, really good player. Excited to see him develop. Let's see, what else do I have as far as takeaways? That's it for my takeaways in this game. Again, overall, I think just a very solid performance. You're not asking for too much from this team to go out there and beat Montana State when you're favored by 27.5 points, but they did what they needed to do. They got out, I think, pretty healthy as well. I know the Pregnon injury we will kind of keep tabs on and make sure. I know there's still question marks about the running backs with Mackay and Dink, but those are things we'll figure out going forward. I don't think there's anything too pressing right now. And I think the majority of the game was positive. I mean, all my takeaways are positive. Oregon didn't have a single negative yardage play, no turnovers. They executed. It was a clean game. It was everything you want to see from this team. You got to see a lot of young guys get in, a lot of young guys get some good action. And I think we learned that there's some young guys that are going to make a huge difference on this team. We didn't even talk about guys like Naeem Offord, Sion Lalea, Aaron Flowers. I think I mentioned him. Just really, really, really good team, really young. I'm super excited for the future of this team. Like, I don't want to get too overexcited on one game, a blowout game against an FCS team, but just the tea leaves are there for a very, very bright future. I'm excited about what's to come. We'll see what happens next week against Oklahoma State. They're dealing with some injuries. Their starting quarterback got hurt. He broke his foot and had to undergo surgery. So they're dealing with a backup quarterback. They're already, I don't think, all due respect, not a great team, or at least we're not expected to be a great team going into this year. So should be another chance for Oregon to get a comfortable win against a little bit better opponent. We'll see what they can do. That's that, though. I will be back on Monday with Jay Stu. I think that episode will go up on Monday or Tuesday morning. Not sure which one yet. We'll see how quick I can get that edited, but should be a good one. We'll have our take and bakes. We'll have a deeper dive into everything. Looking forward to that. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. You can also check out my new Ducks Rising podcast. We've got film breakdowns with our good friend Jeff Schwartz, who I actually got to see today. Had a nice little chat with him before the game. Also follow Jay Stu on Twitter at JonathanStuR1. Make sure to check out the Ducks of a Feather podcast with him and Kenyon Barner. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host who is not here, Jonathan Stewart. We'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.